I've always led a straightforward life, content with a stable job and some tranquility. My father instilled in me the importance of diligence and discipline, teaching me all I know about welding. It wasn't a glamorous job, but I took pride in my work. I never needed much, just steady employment and someone to share my life with. That person was Lucy, my high school sweetheart, who I believed would be my lifelong partner. Yet life has a way of turning plans upside down. Our relationship began with big aspirations and a sense of hope, but reality soon intervened. I put in long hours, often working out of town, while Lucy attended college, funded by my earnings. I thought everything was fine, but small issues started to emerge, and before long, our marriage began to crumble. One evening, as I drove down the highway with the radio playing, memories of Lucy and our problems overwhelmed me. I switched to a talk show about UFOs, trying to distract myself. The truth was, I hadn't just left her, I was fleeing, trying to outrun the heartache. Let me rewind. My name is Stan, and I was married to Lucy for 5 years. We were high school sweethearts who rushed into marriage, believing that love would be enough. I was mistaken. Money was never the issue. I'd been welding since I was young, learning the craft from my father. After high school, I quickly completed welding school and started working, even taking on underwater welding jobs, earning enough to put Lucy through college. Now, she's an associate at a major law firm downtown. So why am I running? Why am I speeding down the freeway in the middle of the night? It all comes back to Lucy and the negative influence of a friend. Lucy used to be kind-hearted, but things shifted. Despite her parents doubting my ability to afford it, I paid for her education without hesitation. Thanks to me, she graduated without debt. But things took a turn after she began working at McMaster and Fredericks. At first, everything seemed fine, but then her colleagues began to sway her. She started going out with them once a week, which didn't bother me at first, but it quickly turned into twice a week, including Friday nights, our date nights. When I raised the issue, she dismissed my concerns, suggesting we could go out on Saturdays instead, and insisted she deserved time with her friends. Her nights out grew longer, and she stopped answering my calls. Eventually, I confronted her one Saturday morning, asking about her late-night outings and if she was seeing someone else. She denied it, claiming they were just grabbing a bite after drinks. I told her the nights out needed to stop, and she agreed to cut back on Fridays. Things seemed to improve briefly, but soon she fell back into the same pattern. Feeling suspicious, I installed a location tracker on her phone. One Friday, I followed her to a bar, where I found her seated with a group, including a man she appeared too friendly with. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring, and when I asked her about it, she claimed she had taken it off to avoid losing it. One of the guys, Jake, introduced himself with a smirk, mentioning that he worked with Lucy. The group laughed, except for Lucy. When Jake tried to shake my hand, I squeezed it hard, making him wince. He tried to play it cool, saying he just wanted to ask my wife to dance. I turned to Lucy and asked if it was true. She nodded hesitantly. Wanting to see what would unfold, I told him to go ahead but reminded him that she was my wife and I would be watching. As Lucy joined him on the dance floor, I took Jake's seat and ordered a beer while the others slowly drifted away. "You don't own her, you know," said a woman seated next to me. "And you are?" I asked. Marie Compton. "I've been mentoring Lucy, helping her find her way, is that so? And what makes you think you can give me advice on my marriage?" I countered. "I'm her friend, and like I said, I'm mentoring her. She's got potential, and the partners see it," she replied. I didn't like her attitude and wondered what kind of influence she was exerting over Lucy. "Well, I'm her husband, and if something's affecting our marriage, I deserve to know," I stated firmly. "Stan, Lucy needs to broaden her experiences," Marie said. "She's only ever known you since college. Maybe she needs to explore new things." Or maybe something else," I retorted. "No need to be crude," Marie replied. "But yes, perhaps she needs to try different things. It might even benefit you in the end." "Oh, really? How so?" I asked, skeptical. "She might learn something to bring back home to you." "Don't you see anyone when you're away for work?" she probed. "No, Marie, I work, earn my pay, and return home. I love Lucy and would never betray her," I replied. "Maybe you should expand your own horizons," she suggested with a smirk. "I take my marriage vows seriously, and I trust Lucy does too," I shot back. "Noticed you're not wearing a ring. Ever been married?" "Twice," she replied casually. "Let me guess, you cheated on both?" I pressed. She shrugged. "Yeah, so. I do what I want." "Well, Lucy is married, and I expect you to respect that," I told her firmly. Marie chuckled. "Sure, you keep telling yourself that," she said. When Jake and Lucy returned, I got up to let Lucy sit between me and Marie, blocking Jake from sitting next to her. He wasn't pleased, but I didn't care. So Lucy tells me you're a welder. What do welders make these days minus $15 an hour? Jake sneered. Actually, I earn over 35, more when I do underwater work, and I covered all of Lucy's college expenses, I replied. So, you're paying off her loans? He asked. No, she doesn't have any loans. I paid everything in full. I even bought her that new Toyota, I clarified. Didn't realize welders made that much. Bet you have a lot of fun with other women when you're out of town, he joked, nudging me. No, I work 16-hour days when I'm away. I honor my vows, I said, cutting off his insinuations. Jake grinned, but I didn't like where this was heading. Turning to Lucy, I asked, Did you drive here? Yes, she replied. Good, I've had enough fun for one night. I'm heading home, and I expect you to follow soon, I told her. As I got up, I accidentally knocked over my cold beer, spilling it onto Jake's lap. Oops, sorry. Better go change those pants, I remarked. Jake stood up, furious, but backed off when I warned him. Smart move, I muttered, turning to Lucy. You coming? I'm right behind you, she said softly. Marie glared at me as I left, but I didn't look back. Lucy arrived home shortly after, storming in angrily. What the hell was that? You embarrassed me, she shouted. I embarrassed you, I retorted. Are you following me? She demanded. No, I was just stopping by for a beer and happened to see you with your friends, I replied. I lied, something I had never done before. If anyone should feel ashamed, it's me. Watching my wife act like a schoolgirl with another man without wearing her wedding ring made me wonder if she was embarrassed by me. Is that it? I asked. Her expression softened. Of course not. I just work with these people, and Jake, well, I work with him the most, and Marie, she's in a higher position, mentoring me. Does that mentorship include advice about our marriage? I asked. What do you mean? She replied. While you were dancing, Marie was suggesting you should expand your horizons, I said. I asked if that meant being unfaithful, and she didn't deny it. Be honest, Lucy, have you ever cheated? No, I haven't, she said, though she couldn't meet my eyes. You know, I could never forgive that. Marie hinted that I might be unfaithful while I'm away. Is that true? No, I responded firmly. We've known each other since the 6th grade. Have I ever been unfaithful? She shook her head. I love you too much to do that. I work long hours, often 16-hour shifts. You've seen my pay stubs. Yes, I know, she admitted. Then you're aware that I've supported you, bought your car, paid our bills, and saved for a house. You can tell Marie to keep her advice to herself. She's been divorced twice, both times for cheating. Lucy was taken aback. How do you know that? She told me herself, and she seemed almost proud of it. I don't trust her or Jake. They're up to something, and I don't want you involved. You haven't done anything wrong, right? No, I haven't, she replied. I just like hanging out with them. But I'd love to spend more time with you too. Can we start doing that again? Of course, she said, hugging me tightly. I'm sorry. It's all right. There are just 3 things I've ever wanted: to be married to you, to be a great welder, and to start a family together, she smiled. Well, you've got the first 2. Ready to work on the 3rd? I returned her smile. Let's go for it. We spent the rest of the evening in our bedroom, and for a few months, things seemed to stabilize. Lucy stayed home on Friday nights, and I made an effort to be more affectionate, never mentioning Marie or Jake again, trusting Lucy to make the right choices. But then, one Friday night, I came home to find the house dark, except for candles on the dining table. The smell of lasagna filled the air, and I thought Lucy had planned something special. The table was set with our finest china, and when I turned around, I saw her in a dress so short it barely covered her. It was backless and highlighted her legs, something she knew I loved. She embraced me, kissed me deeply, and asked, "Do you like what you see?" "Definitely," I replied. "Good, because tonight's going to be special," she said with a mysterious smile. "It's a surprise. Go freshen up, and I'll get dinner ready." After washing up, I came back to find the lasagna served, wine poured, and Lucy seated at the table. I told her I wasn't sure which looked better, her or the food. She laughed and said, "I hope you enjoy both tonight." But as I started eating, I began to feel odd and dizzy. I tried to get up, but nearly collapsed. Confused, I turned to Lucy, barely able to speak before I blacked out. When I regained consciousness, I was stripped and tied to a chair in our bedroom. My arms and legs were secured with zip ties, and a strange contraption was around my waist. Enraged, I shouted, "Lucy, what's going on?" She walked in, but she wasn't alone. Marie was with her. "What is this?" I demanded. "Let me go." Marie responded calmly, "No, it's better if you stay put, so you can watch your wife explore new experiences." "You drugged me and tied me up for this," I yelled. "Yes," Marie said. "Lucy knew you wouldn't approve, so I gave her something to knock you out. Now you can watch, and there's nothing you can do about it." I glared at Lucy. "You went along with this? You know what this means for us." "I'm sorry, but Marie said it's just for fun, that it won't change anything between us, and I still love you," she insisted. "That's not true, and you know it. I told you I wouldn't tolerate betrayal. And what's this thing you put on me?" I demanded. "It's a reminder of who's in control now," Lucy said. "Untie me immediately, or we're through," I warned. Marie approached and gagged me. "You'll stay quiet while your wife enjoys herself with others," she said. I tried to shake my head to stop her, but I couldn't. No matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't break free from the chair. Marie stood up and opened the door, allowing Jake and another man from Lucy's office to enter. They looked at me and chuckled. "Looks like the loser is ready," Jake said. "He's not cooperating," Marie replied. Jake punched me hard in the face, then again, until I tasted blood. Lucy cried out, "Don't hurt him. You promised." "I owe him for the pants he ruined," Jake sneered. "Now he'll watch while I have his wife." He tore off Lucy's dress. "Get rid of the underwear," he told her. Lucy hesitated, but then removed them, handing them to Jake, who sniffed them before tossing them at me. She knelt down and started pleasing Jake while keeping eye contact with me. I trembled with rage, but Jake and Marie just laughed. "She's quite skilled," Jake taunted. When he finished, Lucy turned her attention to the other man. I couldn't bear to watch. "Admit it, you enjoy this, don't you?" Marie asked, recording everything. But I shook my head, refusing to give in. Afterward, Jake led Lucy to the bed. "Time for the main event," he said. I shut my eyes as I heard Lucy's voice, full of pleasure as she compared him to me. Jake asked, and she replied with enthusiasm, "Oh yes, so much better." In that moment, any love I had for her vanished. I had heard of men who felt excitement watching their wives with others, but all I felt was intense loathing. They continued for another hour while Marie recorded everything. When they were done, Jake and the other man approached me, tauntingly asking, "Enjoy the show?" They laughed and then shoved Lucy and Marie aside, urinating on me and covering my face. The stench made me feel sick as Lucy joined in their laughter. Jake leaned in close and threatened, "Say anything, and I'll make your life miserable. Your wife is mine now, and I'll do whatever I please whenever I want." After they left, Marie came over. "Don't make any trouble, or it will get worse," she warned. Turning to Lucy, she said, "Let him go once I leave," and then walked out. Lucy then removed my gag, cut the zip ties, and unlocked the contraption. She started to speak, but I cut her off, quickly grabbing my clothes and dialing emergency services. "What are you doing?" she asked, panicking. I reported the assault and unlawful restraint to the operator. Lucy became frantic, trying to grab her phone and keys, but I blocked her. "You're not going anywhere," I stated firmly. "Please don't press charges. I don't want to go to prison," she begged. "Believe me, jail is the safest place for you right now," I replied coldly. "Get dressed, the police will be here soon." "You don't understand, Jake and Marie, they'll come after you," she warned. "Get dressed," I repeated firmly. Lucy, realizing I was serious, quietly put on her clothes. Meanwhile, her phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Marie. "Everything okay?" I texted back, "Everything's fine. He's not happy, but he'll deal with it," hoping to mislead her. When Lucy returned to the living room, the police had arrived. I let them in, and they immediately sensed something was wrong. One officer took my statement, called for an ambulance, and documented the injuries on my face. Another officer spoke with Lucy in the bedroom. After discussing outside, they returned, and Lucy was led out in handcuffs, pleading, "Please don't let them arrest me, it was just for fun." I turned away as she cried. More officers and an ambulance arrived. A female officer escorted Lucy away, and the officer who had taken my statement explained, "She's being charged with unlawful restraint, drugging, and sexual assault. We need to take you to the hospital for blood and urine tests to determine what substances they used." I agreed, understanding that more evidence could help. "You should also consider getting a restraining order," the officer added, handing me a contact card for an attorney from the district attorney's office. She'll meet you at the hospital. I thanked him and went with the paramedics, who conducted a brief assessment during the ride. At the hospital, they performed a thorough examination, collected samples, and gave me pain medication. Just as I was starting to relax, a woman entered. "Stan Shipman?" she asked. "That's me," I replied. "I'm Linda Calloway, the assistant DA assigned to your case. How are you holding up?" I'd been better, but I'm managing. She filled me in on the situation, letting me know that Marie, Jake, and the other man had been arrested, but warned that their connections might get them released. "I'm seeking a restraining order for you," she said. "Thank you. Do you think it will make a difference?" "It might help, but there are no guarantees," she admitted. "I understand. I guess I'll just have to handle it," I responded. She nodded. "They'll remain in custody until Monday, but you might also want to consult a divorce lawyer unless you're considering staying with your wife." "No, I'm finished with her," I replied. She informed me that I would need to stay in the hospital overnight since my apartment was now a crime scene. She also asked if I owned a firearm, and I told her I didn't. After that, I fell asleep, waking up when they moved me to a private room. The next morning, my parents visited, and I told them everything that had happened. My father was livid. "What are you going to do now?" he asked. "I'm filing for divorce," I answered. "Good. Let me help you find a lawyer," he offered, also agreeing to give me a ride home once I was discharged. Later, Lucy's parents came by, clearly shocked and ashamed of her actions. Her father asked if I intended to end the marriage, and I confirmed it. "We're truly sorry," her mother said. "If she needs a place to stay, she's welcome with us." I thanked them, appreciating their understanding. After they left, the doctor cleared me for discharge a few hours later. I called my dad to let him know, and my parents arrived just as I was finishing the paperwork. After receiving instructions from the nurse, they wheeled me to the car, and we headed home. Once back at my apartment, my dad helped me to the door, and we said our goodbyes. "Call me if you need anything," he reminded me. "Thanks, Dad," I replied. Inside, I saw that the police had searched the place. I also noticed a message on the answering machine, "Dead meat." The number was private, and when I replayed it, I recognized it as a line from a Rocky movie, not a direct threat. Just then, the doorbell rang. Looking through the peephole, I spotted a brunette who seemed familiar from the night I had met Jake. I turned on my phone's camera and opened the door slightly, keeping the chain on. "Yes," I asked cautiously. "Mr. Shipman?" she asked softly. "That's me. And you are?" "Holly Brinkman. I work with your wife." "May I come in?" she asked. "Are you alone?" I questioned warily. "Yes," she replied. I unchained the door and let her inside. "What do you need, Holly?" I asked, noticing her uneasy demeanor. Without a word, she handed me a manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked, taking it. "Please, open it," she urged softly. I went to the kitchen, put on gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints, and opened the envelope. Inside, I found photos of a dead man with his hands tied behind his back. Staring at the images, I asked, "Who is this?" my voice tense. "That's my husband, Brian," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "Did you report this to the police?" I inquired. "Yes, but they ruled it a suicide. The firm we work for has connections. They control parts of the police force and some judges." "Did Jake have a role in this?" I asked, realizing the possible implications. "I'm not sure, but it's possible he ordered it." "Why are you still working there?" Then I pressed. "I have no other options," she admitted, her voice shaking. "You're not just a legal secretary, are you?" I asked, piecing it together. "No, my husband tried to stand up to them, and he paid the price." "So you're trapped, doing their bidding?" I asked. "Yes, I'm essentially there for the attorneys and their clients," she said. "And Marie," I continued, seeing the bigger picture. "She's like their leader. She controls us." And Lucy, I hesitated. "She was being groomed," Holly confirmed. I found a note tucked inside the envelope, made from letters cut from a magazine, reading "Back off, or this could be you." "Did you read this?" I asked Holly, showing her the message. "No, it was left at my apartment this morning with instructions to deliver it to you personally." "Would you testify to the DA?" I asked. "No, I want to stay alive. You don't understand how dangerous these people are, especially Marie. How many at the firm know about this?" I tried to grasp the scale of the situation. How many people are involved? I asked. Everyone at the executive level, she answered. Thanks for coming forward, Holly. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. You're doing the right thing. Lucy's fortunate to have you, she added with a sad smile. Thanks, I replied, guiding her to the door. I watched Holly leave, scanning the street to ensure no one was observing. Once I was certain it was safe, I locked the door behind me. The message in that envelope had changed everything. I still intended to divorce Lucy, but now things had escalated, and when I was done with Jake, Lucy would be wishing for a quick end. I stopped the video I had been watching and picked up the phone, dialing Linda's personal number. This is Linda Calloway, she answered. I quickly explained the voicemail in the envelope. This changes everything. Bring it to me right away, she said urgently, giving me her address. I realized I needed to leave town for a while, so I packed a bag for a few days, grabbed the restraint device Lucy had used on me, and loaded everything into my truck. I also packed some basic welding tools, called my boss to request time off, and he approved it, saying I had plenty of vacations saved up. After double-checking that everything was secure, I locked up and drove to Linda's condo, reaching it in about half an hour. She was stunned by the photos and the note I showed her. I also recorded my conversation with the woman who gave me this, I told her. Let me see it, she requested. I played the recording, and she was taken aback. This explains a lot. Can I get a copy? I allowed her to transfer the video from my phone, then remembered I still had Lucy's phone in my pocket and handed it over. What's this, she asked. It's Lucy's phone. I took it the night Jake attacked me. There might be something useful on it. I'll have someone examine it, she replied, then hesitated. Maybe I should bring in the state or federal authorities. If what Holly said is accurate, we can't trust the local police. She looked at me intently. What are you going to do? I'm leaving town for a bit, I said. Keep me posted on what you find. Let me know where you are, she urged. I will, I promised, leaving without a clear destination in mind. I withdrew as much cash as possible and stayed alert for any signs of being followed. The images of the dead man haunted me, reminding me that I could be next if I wasn't cautious. Late that night, I decided to reach out to an old friend. Yeah, a gruff voice answered. Dave, it's Stan. Stan, what's going on? I'm in a bit of a jam. Can I stay at your place for a few days? Sure, buddy. Just grab a couple of six-packs on your way, he said. I will. See you soon. Feeling a sense of relief, I hit the road, stopping at a convenience store to buy some beer, ice, and coffee. I also picked up cigarettes for Dave, knowing he'd appreciate the gesture since he was letting me crash at his place. Dave Brolin was about 15 years older than me and had worked alongside my dad, which is how we met. He became like a big brother to me, teaching me a lot while I worked in my dad's shop. Dave had a rough upbringing. His father died of mesothelioma after years working in a shipyard, and his sister Beverly took care of their mother until she succumbed to cancer last year. I had known Beverly for a long time. She was attractive and had a friendly girl-next-door vibe, but we were more like siblings. It had been a while since I'd seen her, and I was curious to catch up. Dave had married young but divorced after finding his wife with a co-worker. He never remarried and now took care of Beverly, who lived with him. I pulled up to Dave's house around 2:30 a.m., carrying my bags, and met him on the porch. Hope you brought beer, he joked. Of course, I replied, handing him the cigarettes. Inside, a stunning blonde in pajamas came down the stairs. Who's the blonde bombshell? I teased. You know who I am? Idiot, she shot back. It was Beverly, all grown up, fit, and nothing like the girl I remembered. Beverly, is that really you? Yeah, genius. What are you doing here so early? Did Lucy kick you out? Not exactly, I said, my voice tightening as she noticed the bruises on my face. Beverly's tone softened. I'm sorry, Stan. What happened? That's why I'm here, I replied. Grab a beer and fill us in, Dave suggested. I handed out 3 beers, playfully teasing Beverly about her age, and she rolled her eyes before urging me to tell them everything. So, I told them about Lucy Marie Jake and showed them the video of my meeting with Holly. They sat in stunned silence. Damn, Dave finally muttered. Do they know where you are? I don't think so. No one followed me. Good. We're up on this hill, so we'll see anyone coming. I still have the guns I got from your dad. You remember how to shoot, right? Yeah, but I haven't handled a weapon since then. No problem. I'll take you out back to practice. Beverly's become a decent shot too, he said with a grin, and Beverly flashed a mischievous smile. Does your dad know you're here? Dave asked. No, I haven't told anyone yet. I need to update the assistant DA, but I didn't decide to come here until I was already on the road. I'll call your parents in the morning. Turn off your phone and take out the battery, just in case there's a tracker, Dave suggested. I powered down the phone and removed the battery. Lucy's arraignment is on Monday, Beverly asked. Yeah. The DA hopes they'll hold her without bail, but I'm not sure, given what Holly told me. You can stay as long as you need, Dave offered. I've got a job starting next week, but you're welcome to stick around. Thanks. I'm planning on taking 2 weeks off, so hopefully everything will be resolved by then. If you need anything, just let us know, Dave reassured me. He smiled at Beverly and added, she'll keep you busy, but you're our guest. Your folks always treated us well, so just take it easy and enjoy the fresh air. Beverly got up, stretching with a yawn. I've got to get up early and make breakfast. Hope you like omelets and hash browns, she said, glancing at me. Sounds perfect, I replied with a smile. She waved goodnight and headed upstairs. After her door closed, Dave and I stepped outside for a smoke. What's her story? I asked. I thought she'd be married with kids by now. She never met anyone she cared about that much. Dated a few guys, but none of them measured up. Measured up to what I asked. Curious. Dave looked at me seriously. You. She's always had a thing for you. Really? I said, surprised. Yep. The only reason she never told you was because of Lucy. Are you serious? As serious as a heart attack. I've even heard her call your name in her sleep. That's a little too much information, I said, feeling awkward. Dave just smirked. It is what it is. When did she become such a knockout? I asked, shaking my head. She's always been pretty. You just couldn't see it because you were focused on Lucy. Yeah, I guess I admitted quietly. Look, if you and Beverly end up together, that's fine by me. Just don't break her heart, okay? She's been holding on to those feelings for a long time. I'm done with Lucy, I assured him. Good. Just don't string her along, he added. We finished our cigarettes, and Dave went to bed. I followed soon after and was asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. I woke up to Beverly calling, rise and shine. It was 8:30 a.m. After freshening up and taking a quick shower, I got dressed, removing my wedding ring and leaving it on the dresser. When I went downstairs, Beverly was cooking breakfast in a short t-shirt and cut-off shorts, her hair tied back. She looked incredible, and I wondered why I hadn't noticed before. Smells great, I said. She smiled. Coffee's ready. Want some butter pecan creamer? Absolutely. Just save a little for everyone else, she said with a wink. I poured a cup and joined Dave, who was engrossed in the newspaper. Morning, I said. Morning, he replied, barely looking up. There's an article about a lawyer's arrest might be related to your situation. I glanced at the article, but it lacked any real details, so I handed it back. By then, Beverly brought breakfast over to the table. This is fantastic, I said after taking a bite. Glad you enjoy it, she replied with a smile. After finishing breakfast, Dave got up. I'm heading into town for a while. If you need to call the DA, use the house phone. Thanks, I said, as Beverly handed him a list before he left. I turned to her. Need a hand with the dishes? Not required, but I'd appreciate the help, she replied with a grin. I assisted Beverly in clearing the table, and she tossed me a towel while she started washing the dishes. I see you're not wearing your ring. Are you really going through with the divorce? She asked. Yes, I answered firmly. I told her I wouldn't put up with cheating, and I meant it. Good, she said with a small smile. Glad to see you've still got some fight in you. So what's your story? How are things going for you? I inquired. She shrugged. Okay, I guess. Anyone special in your life? I asked, curious. There was someone, but he was taken. Besides, I had my parents to look after, she replied, a hint of sadness in her voice. Yeah, I heard, I said sympathetically. I worked as a waitress to help out after Dad passed, and when Mum got too sick, I stayed home full-time to care for her, she explained. I'm sorry. Don't be. I don't regret it. I just hope that when I reach that age, someone will be there for me, she said, offering a soft smile. So what did you do after your mum passed away, I asked. I had to sell the house to pay the bills. Dave let me keep what was left, and I've been living here since then. He even offered to pay for my college, but I declined, she added. Why did you turn it down, I asked, surprised. I want to make my own way, she said proudly. I'm working at McDonald's and taking business classes in the evenings. Good for you. Is Dave still talking about starting his own fabrication business? Yeah, he wants me to handle the books, she said. Still on about that? Ha, I chuckled. Yep, he does custom projects for people around here and earns good money. His dream is to work from his shop full-time. Maybe he'll show you the shop while you're staying, she said. That would be great, I replied. A comfortable silence settled between us, and I found myself appreciating her more than ever before. She noticed and raised an eyebrow. What are you staring at, she asked. I think I'm looking at the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, I said. She blushed and looked down. Stop teasing me. I'm serious. I admire what you've accomplished caring for your parents, working your way through school. I wish I had noticed it sooner. Well, you were too wrapped up in Lucy, she said with a smile. Yeah, you're right, I agreed. When the dishes were done, Beverly dried her hands and turned to me, her expression serious. She used you. You know, she said directly. I sighed. I think you're right. I saw through her a long time ago, she continued, shaking her head. Why didn't you say anything, I asked. You wouldn't have believed me. She had you under her thumb, Beverly replied with a hint of frustration. All I wanted was to make her happy, I said softly, looking down. And look where that got you, she replied, her voice rising. She got a degree, a new car, and everything else on your dime. Then, when she didn't need you anymore, she ditched you. I'm glad she's in jail because I'd tear her apart if she were here right now. I believe you would, I said, smiling slightly to lighten the mood. Beverly crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. I need to know one thing. What's that, I asked. Are you going to fall for her tears and take her back? I shook my head decisively. No, that's not going to happen. Good, she said, visibly relieved. Just remember that without warning, Beverly pulled off her t-shirt, tossing it aside, revealing herself to me for the first time. She quickly undressed, walked over, wrapped her arms around me, and kissed me deeply. We made love in the kitchen as the morning sun streamed through the window. I love you, Stan Shipman. I always have. Don't forget that she whispered afterward, her voice tender. I love you too, Beverly, I replied, still catching my breath. I want this moment to last forever. That sounds nice, she said with a smile, but I doubt my brother would be thrilled about it, she laughed, and I kissed her again. Suddenly a thought struck me, and I pulled back, worried. I just realized I didn't use protection. Don't worry, I'm on the pill, she reassured me with a grin. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if you got me pregnant. I'd love to have your children. I'll hold you to that, I said, relieved. We should clean up before Dave gets back, she said, standing up and stretching. I need to get the meat ready for tonight. Why don't you take a shower first? Okay, I'll head up in a bit. What's the meat for, I asked. We do a barbecue every Sunday, weather permitting. You like venison, right, she asked with a grin. Yeah, but it's been a long time since I had any, I replied, smiling back. Good, I hunted it myself with Dave's .50 flintlock and dressed it out in the field, she said proudly. You're something else, I laughed. I know that flintlock is at least 49 inches long. Did you load it yourself, I asked, impressed. Of course. Patched round ball with 100 grains of powder. I even molded the bullet, she replied with a wink. Wow. Do you like fishing too, I asked, genuinely curious. I love it. I bait my own hooks and clean my catches, she said with pride. Is there anything you can't do, I joked. Well, I haven't rebuilt the transmission in Dave's truck yet, but I did help him rebuild the engine, she said, laughing. I think I'm definitely in love, I said, kissing her. She kissed me back. Now hurry up and shower. I'll join you in a bit, she teased. By the way, you're sleeping in my bed from now on. It's bigger than yours. Won't Dave mind? I asked, uncertain. Nope, we're both grown-ups, she winked. After our shower, we got dressed and went back downstairs. I need to call the DA to update her on my location, I said. Beverly pointed to a cordless phone. Use that one. I picked it up, almost forgetting it was long distance. Linda answered after a couple of rings. Linda Calloway, she said. Linda, it's Stan Shipman. Just calling to let you know where I am. Stan, I was concerned. This is a long-distance call. Where are you? She asked. I'm staying with a close family friend and turned off my cell for safety, I explained. Got it. Keep me posted. The feds are looking into the firm where your wife works. I also reached out to a top divorce attorney in your area for you. I hope that's okay. No problem. I appreciate it, I replied. She's expecting to hear from you tomorrow. If anyone can help, it's her, Linda assured. Thanks. I'll call her, I said, jotting down the details. Linda shared more information and promised to update me on the arraignment. When we finished the call, Dave had just returned, and I helped him bring in the groceries. I called your parents, he said. They were worried. I told them you're staying with us. Thanks, I appreciate that, I replied. That evening, we grilled the venison and enjoyed our meal out on the deck. Afterward, we all pitched in to clean up. Dave and I grabbed a beer and headed outside for a smoke while Beverly wrapped up in the kitchen. So are you staying in her room? Dave asked, a smirk on his face. I felt awkward discussing it, especially since Bev was his sister. Yeah, I think so, I replied hesitantly. Is this going to be a long-term thing? His tone turned more serious. Yeah, I think it is, I answered confidently. I just need to finalize the divorce. Do you love her? Dave asked, looking me straight in the eye. Yeah, I do, I said without hesitation. Good, it's about time you got your priorities straight, he said, grinning as he clapped me on the shoulder. Bev's a grown woman, she can make her own choices. Just don't let her get hurt, okay? I'd never hurt her, I promised. Glad to hear it. Welcome to the family, Dave said, offering his hand. I shook it, and we shared a firm hug. Just try not to keep me up all night. All right, Dave laughed. I chuckled and nodded. I'll do my best. Later that night, after Bev and I made love, I held her close, thinking about what lay ahead. It had been a long time since I felt this content. What's on your mind? She asked softly, resting her head on my chest. The future, I replied. Oh, she lifted her head to look at me. Yeah, what do you want out of life? Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? I asked. I'm not really into chasing a career, she said thoughtfully. I just want a caring husband and a family. That's enough for me. Now, what about your classes? I inquired, curious. They're more for Dave's sake. He'll need help with his business, she explained. And what do you want? I asked. I'm like you, she said. I just want a loyal partner and a family. I thought I had that with Lucy, but it didn't work out, I admitted. She smiled. And your job? I love it, I replied. But sometimes I'm gone for weeks at a time. Can you handle that? She laughed. My brother's a welder, remember? I know what it's like. As long as you come back to me, I'm good. Looking at her, I felt a sense of peace that had been missing for so long. I wish I'd met you before Lucy. Me too, she said. But we'll get through this together. We're a team, and I'll always be here for you, she added warmly. I love you, I said, kissing her. I love you more, she whispered, holding me tight. That night, I drifted off feeling truly cared for. The next morning, Beverly was up early. After making breakfast, she kissed me goodbye before heading to work, reminding me that she had class afterward. I'll be back by 9:30. You two will have to fend for yourselves, she said with a grin. I love you. I love you too, I replied, touched by her words. As she left, Dave came downstairs and joked, no kiss for me. Beverly laughed, gave him a quick peck, and said, "Stay out of trouble," as she walked out the door. I glanced at the clock. "I need to call that divorce lawyer," I said. Dave pointed to the phone. I dialed the number for the law office of Bernice Goodwin. A friendly voice answered, and I introduced myself, mentioning that Bernice was expecting my call. "Hold on a moment," she said, and soon another voice came on. "Bernice Goodwin, how can I assist you?" "This is Stan Shipman. Linda Calloway gave me your contact information." "Yes, I've been expecting your call. Usually, I prefer in-person consultations, but I understand this situation is unique," she said. "That's okay," I replied. "We can manage most of it remotely." "Tell me everything," she instructed. I laid out the situation, and she listened carefully. "What are your goals?" she asked. "I want to avoid paying alimony and receive a fair division of our assets," I said. "We can work with that," she replied. "Your wife's legal troubles will help strengthen your case. Do you own any property?" "No, we're renting," I answered. "Would you like to take action against Marie and Jake? I recommend suing for emotional distress rather than alienation of affection. It's more effective," she advised. "Do what you think is best," I said. "I'll get started. Do you have an email address?" I provided her with my information. "I'll send over the documents, including a contract and a checklist. You'll also need to pay a retainer. Can you do that today?" "Yes, I can," I agreed. "Great. Once everything's set, I'll arrange for the papers to be served. Any questions?" "No, that covers it," I replied. Her assistant then took my payment details for the retainer. After the call, I checked my email and found 2 attachments from Bernice. I signed the contract, sent it back, and read through the financial advice she provided. Using my online banking, I opened a new account and moved half of our joint savings and checking into it. I paid off and cancelled Lucy's card, but kept mine active for the retainer payment. By the early afternoon, I had completed everything. Dave invited me to join him at a shop where he was working on a trailer for a local farmer. I helped out, finding the activity a good distraction. Around 3, we received a phone call. Dave answered and handed me the receiver. "It's your lawyer," he said. "This is Stan," I said into the phone. "Stan, it's Linda Calloway. I have bad news. The judge set a low bail, and they were released," Linda said, her tone strained. "How is that possible?" I asked, feeling my stomach tighten. "Probably because they're on someone's payroll. There's a restraining order, but it's only as strong as the paper it's written on. Stay put for now. The feds are monitoring them, but I can't promise your safety," she explained. "Great. So what now?" I asked. "Stay where you are. I'll handle things from here. Reach out if you need anything," she said. "All right," I replied, feeling uneasy. After ending the call, I told Dave the judge released them on minimal bail. "Damn, you should call your folks," Dave suggested. I agreed and called my parents. My dad picked up on the second ring. "Dad." "It's Stan," I said, trying to remain calm. "How are you holding up?" he asked, concern clear in his voice. "I'm okay, but I need to let you know that the judge released Lucy and her friends. Be on alert, they might try to find me," I warned. "Don't worry, we won't say anything. You're still down at John Harrison's place, right?" he asked. Realizing he already knew where I was, a cold feeling swept over me. Lucy and her friends were likely there with him now. I decided to play along. "No, I'm about 50 miles south, staying at a motel," I lied. "All right, just make sure you're safe," my dad said, his voice sounding strained. "I'll be leaving here tomorrow. Heading east," I continued with the deception. "Can I talk to Mum?" I asked, growing suspicious. "She's in the bathroom," he said, his voice unsteady. I thought I heard something in the background that made my concern grow. "Okay, just let her know I love her," I said. "I will." "Love you, son," he replied, and we ended the call. I immediately called Linda. "I think Lucy and her friends are at my parents' house," I told her, anxiety creeping in. "I'll send federal agents there right away. Stay put," she instructed firmly. After the call, I turned to Dave. "I think they're at my parents' place, looking for me." "Do you think they'll buy your story?" Dave asked. "I hope so, at least for a little while. But I might need to find somewhere else to hide," I said, pacing nervously. No, you're staying here. Let me clean up, and I'll go speak with the sheriff. Don't go anywhere, Dave said with determination. I nodded, though I wasn't sure how much time we had before Lucy and her friends figured out the truth. A couple of hours after Dave left for town, Linda called back, her voice urgent. Stan, you were right. Lucy Marie, Jake, and some others went to your parents' house after the hearing. They tied them up, but your parents didn't give away your location. We've issued an APB for them, and one of their guys is in custody, but he's refusing to talk. Do you know where they're headed? I asked, dread filling me. No, but they didn't believe your story, she said gravely. Here, talk to your dad. My father's voice came through, shaky but relieved. Stan, they didn't fall for it, but we're okay. I think Lucy and her group are heading your way. What makes you think that I asked, my heart racing. I overheard Lucy talking, he said. You'd better warn Linda. I will, Dad. Stay safe, I replied, and Linda got back on the line. Where exactly are you? She asked. I gave her my precise location and asked, do you think Lucy can find me here? She knows, Linda replied. Stay put. I'm sending help immediately. I hung up and headed back toward the house. But as I left the shop, I heard a familiar voice. Well, thought you could outsmart us, her Jake sneered, holding a gun. Behind him, Marie and Lucy leaned against an SUV, looking smug. Jake waved the weapon at me. Move. I had no choice but to get into the SUV. Lucy slid in beside me, a smirk on her face. This won't end well for you, I warned. Doesn't matter, she replied coldly. It'll be too late for you. They drove me to a secluded creek bed where Jake ordered me out. A thug tied my hands behind my back and forced me to my knees. Jake unsheathed a long sword, standing over me. Make your peace, he said, raising the blade. I shut my eyes and prayed. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed through the air. Jake fell instantly, a bullet striking his forehead, and another shot took out the thug restraining me. As Marie reached for Jake's weapon, a third bullet hit her in the shoulder, making her stumble. Lucy hid behind Jake's body, trembling. The sound of a four-wheeler grew closer, and Beverly appeared, blonde hair flowing, rifle in hand. She quickly cut me loose, then strode over to Lucy, hitting her with the rifle's butt. Don't you dare touch my man again, or I'll blow your head off, Beverly shouted. Lucy, bleeding and shaking, nodded in terror. Beverly then swung the rifle into Lucy's kneecap, and Lucy screamed in pain as her leg broke. We heard sirens getting nearer as Beverly calmly reached for a flare gun from the four-wheeler. She fired it into the air, signaling the approaching authorities. As the sirens grew louder, flashing lights appeared on the horizon, drawing closer. Beverly turned to me, her expression softening. Are you all right, honey? She asked. I am now, I said, still reeling from the ordeal. You saved my life, Bev. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. She smiled warmly. You've got the rest of your life to make it up to me soon. Police cars swarmed the area, and Dave arrived in his truck, rushing over to check on us. Are you all right? He asked, concern etched on his face. Yeah, I'm okay now, thanks to Bev. She saved my life, I replied, deeply grateful. The sheriff and his deputies took over the scene, calling for an ambulance for Marie, who continued to wail in pain, and a coroner for Jake's body. Lucy was cuffed and taken into custody, but not before she shot me a venomous glare. She killed Jacob, and Ronnie, Marie cried, tears streaming down her face as paramedics attended to her. The sheriff remained composed. Nope, this is Dave's property, and under the castle doctrine, Miss Brolin was within her rights to protect Mr. Shipman. You're lucky she didn't kill you, too, he replied. As the deputies escorted Lucy and Marie into separate police cars, the sheriff told me they're facing charges for attempted murder and conspiracy. With all the evidence we've gathered and your statement, this case is airtight. Once the authorities collected evidence and removed the bodies, Beverly and I got back on the four-wheeler, heading home with Dave following in his truck. We rode in silence, a sense of relief settling in. As we parked, I turned to Beverly. I thought you had classes today, I said, still amazed by her actions. She grinned. Dave came by McDonald's and filled me in. I clocked out, went home, and followed the tire tracks to find you. I climbed into the deer stand and, well, you know the rest. I owe you everything, Bev, I said, my voice full of emotion. You don't owe me anything. You're safe, and that's all I care about, she replied, hugging me tightly. Once inside, I called Linda to report what had happened, and she was relieved to hear I was safe. We've got them right where we want them now, Linda said confidently. The firm is going down hard. I hope so, I replied. Then I called my parents, who were equally relieved that everything had turned out okay. That evening, after things had settled down, I couldn't thank Beverly enough for saving my life. Marie eventually recovered, and she and Lucy went to trial for attempted murder and conspiracy. They were found guilty on several counts, including my assault and unlawful restraint. Both received life sentences, ensuring they would never be free again. I couldn't have been more relieved. Bernice finalized the divorce, and with Lucy's convictions, she got nothing. Bernice also secured a significant settlement from Marie and Jake's estate. By the end, I was quite well off. Bernice took her share, but I was very pleased with my portion. The firm agreed to a large settlement as its partners faced federal charges, including racketeering and suspicious deaths. Eventually, the firm shut down, and its partners received life sentences. Everything unraveled within about 6 months, leaving Beverly and me with more than enough to live comfortably for many years. I bought a beautiful ring and proposed to Beverly, kneeling down to do it right. She squealed with joy and showered me with kisses. A month later, we got married and spent a week in Las Vegas for our honeymoon. When we returned, we sat down with Dave and proposed the idea of starting DNS Welding and Custom Fabrications. Are you serious? Dave asked, surprised. Absolutely, I said with enthusiasm. Beverly then revealed a detailed business plan she had been working on. After going through it thoroughly, I nodded in approval. I think this can work, I said, genuinely impressed. Oh, I almost forgot, I said, pulling a set of keys from my pocket. You know that lot on the south side? Yeah, what about it? She asked, curious. Did you see the new double wide on it? I asked, grinning. Yeah, we thought you sold it, she replied. Nope, I said, smiling. It's a wedding gift from me and your parents. The lot and the home are in your name now. Your dad and I moved all your things from your apartment minus anything with Lucy's picture on it. Beverly's expression was one of shock. Wow, I don't know what to say. I could have saved up for a custom home, but this double wide is perfect. I wouldn't turn down such a generous gift, especially knowing it must have cost over $150,000. Just say thanks, partner, I said, offering her my hand. Beverly smiled and shook my hand before pulling me into a tight hug. Are you sure you're okay with living down there? Beverly asked, a hint of concern in her voice. I'd hate for you to feel lonely. I'll be fine, I reassured her. I might even get some decent sleep without hearing you two every night. We all shared a laugh and celebrated. Later, I called my parents to express my gratitude for their incredible gift. That night, Beverly and I made the master bedroom of our new home truly ours. As we lay together, I felt confident that our future looked bright. Of course, with wealth comes a sudden influx of friends, some of whom have connections with serious criminal elements. Meanwhile, Lucy and Marie weren't so fortunate. Behind bars, they had a rough time, scrubbing floors with toothbrushes and doing favors for inmates with particular preferences. It seems their horizons expanded in ways they never imagined.